Femister. Director Thompson.
Here. All right, lack of quorum, so the meeting is adjourned. Thank you. If you folks want to stick around, we can certainly. Yes, ma'am.
I think that's ridiculous that we all show up here and there's not going to be a real meeting. I mean, is there any repercussions when they don't show up to their own meeting?
Hopefully it made us the repercussions that everyone gets out and votes.
Because I think that's very disrespectful.
How about a recall election?
Well, so we're out. There's no meeting. That part that's over. So we can certainly have a discussion. I think the staff is allowed, so we can use the room, John. We have an hour or so.
An hour would be great, but if you really need to keep it going, let me know.
And we can certainly do our best to have a conversation, even though it's not really a board meeting. So, sir.
What's the story with the other two directors, Director Femister and Director Bone? Where are they?
I believe Director Bone had a scheduled vacation out of town.
Okay.
Yeah, he was out of state.
John, he's still. Yes.
So I'm sorry.
What about her?
I don't know.
Her feelings were hurt,
Here, so you student, that's condition, operating conditions.
Jim Price, I'm a resident here, and
Excuse me, but if we are going to stay around and have a conversation, we should have it together. I think we'd agree with that. So if you want to sidebar, discuss things, please step outside and we'll talk one at a time and hopefully have a conversation with each other. Thank you.
give you a little background. I've been coming to these meetings for probably the last 18 meetings. A lot of you people I haven't seen before.
So you identifying yourself?
I did.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
Jim Pridemore. I live in Serrano, Village, Gateway. And like I say, I've been coming to these meetings as an interested homeowner for the last 18 meetings. It was when we first started, I first started coming here, there were 2 or 3 people that would show up. Then about a year ago, Director Getz got involved and as a director, and when he put out his running paper, it was to go in there and try to clean, make things better for the homeowners, the budget, and that type of thing. So he's been very aggressive in bringing issues to the table. In fact, he was the only one that was bringing issues to the table. During that time, he had difficulty in presenting his ideas because the Parker, quote-unquote Parker contingent wouldn't listen to him. They would delay him, so on and so forth. So about a year ago, things started changing, and we would get maybe 20 people involved. So tonight, we've got almost standing room only. And that's because homeowners want to take a little bit more control of the HOA. Because quite honestly, Parker has this thing in a muscle grip. We have, this may not be popular, but I'm going to say it. Kurt Bone works for Parker. He doesn't live here, but he does everything Parker tells him to do. We have 2 board members who were not elected by popular vote. They were installed with Parker's votes, 2,000 votes. So they really, it's quid pro quo, is the way I look at it. And, I had a lot of, I guess, hope that the 2 that were installed would swing over and help the residents out, but they haven't done that. And it's very, very disconcerting. You all, this is the second time I've been to a meeting. The first time, they called a special meeting in the afternoon so no one would show up because they were talking about delicate stuff. So and people got off work, they filled this room, and and something didn't go right, and Tom Howard adjourned the meeting. We didn't have an opportunity to say anything. So we were there just like here. That's the reason I'm saying it's a pattern. It's a pattern of control, and it pisses me off. And I think there's a lot of people that need to be pissed off about this too. People in Toronto were kept in the dark through the first 20 years. The last 2 years, I personally have been very active on social media, telling things that are the truth, but I get smeared for it because the truth hurts. I ran for the HOA board, and I had about 8 letters from various and sundry people smearing my name. They didn't even know who I was. And I met one of them the other day. What's his name? Face to face. What was the other board president?
John Tyler.
John Tyler. I met him face to face, and he had sent out one of these letters. And I introduced myself, and I looked at him. I said, I'm Jim Pridewell, the one you've been smearing. And he goes, I don't smear anybody. You should call me or something. I said, I'm going to have to call you. I'm standing right here. He was an ex-president smearing neighbors he didn't even know about. There's another ex-president who did the same thing. We figured that there's been about $50,000 spent to smear homeowners, myself, Robert Thompson, so that we wouldn't get elected, so that he could keep control of the board. Understand this. Hope you guys understand this. We, as homeowners, need to be able to make decisions about our homeowners association. Right now, we're going to name it to the Toronto Landowner Association. Notice it's landowner. It's really, basically, it's Partners Association. He won't let control over it. I'm nervous. I'm done.
Jim, that letter that you talked about, wasn't that the one that referred to a quote-unquote unholy or
Unhealthy alliance, yeah.
That's one unhealthy.
Yeah, I was part of Unholy Alliance. That was Robert Thompson, one of the cleanest guys I ever met in my life. And Dean
Getz, yeah.
you know, I mean, come on, guys. I see some stuff going on now that's really irritating. But I've said like
Dean had, again, needs to try and get this unlocked here, because I think Dean had prepared a presentation to discuss some of the things that I think most people are interested in. Certainly, there's been a lot of interest in the security transition, and there's been a lot of interest in what the analysis that's been done in that transition, how that relates to what were the savings, what was the analysis, what was the backstory on it. So I think the reason we wanted to get together is there's a chronology of, maybe if you're signed up for the HOA's email blast, you got a notice about the budget, and then you saw a footnote in there about security, which directed you to another document that staff prepared, where they offered their opinions about what the cost savings were, that they were this or that, or comparing this to that. And again, let me say officially again, because we have trouble with this sometimes, this is not a board meeting, and I'm not speaking to you for the board of directors. I'm speaking as myself and as an owner here. Simply because I'm on the board, I don't forfeit my right to have an opinion about things either. So I get an opinion just like everybody else gets one. And what had happened, and I think that's what Dean was working to, well, members of the Finance Committee, I think there's some of the Finance Committee folks here tonight. This analysis that was sent out to the community went out to the Finance Committee and the board at the same time. So staff presented it, Finance Committee, board got it at the same time. I think within 10 or 15 minutes of it going out, there were immediately questions that were bouncing back. Hey, I don't understand these numbers. This analysis doesn't make sense. Quite a few questions, quite a few substantial questions about the accuracy of what was being presented. And then 4 hours later, with no board approval, the analysis that you got went out. So the board of directors did not approve the analysis that was sent to the membership. In fact, the board of directors didn't see it until 4 hours before it went out. And in that 4-hour period, somewhere between the neighborhood of 7 to 11 substantive questions about the accuracy of its contents were asked. None were answered, and it went out to the community.
So who made that decision to send it out to community?
Management.
Staff?
And I will give John Bowman credit because I asked that exact question. Because in the initial email we got, there was no notation that this is about to go out to the membership, that this is a draft that's about to immediately get sent out to all the members. So I think those of us that received it were working under the assumption this was a draft and that we were all going to help tweak it to get it to be accurate where we could all buy off on it, or at least 3 to 5 directors would buy off on it. And that way when you got it because it was approved by the board of directors as an official, this is our official analysis that we sent. Unfortunately, that didn't happen in this case. And I asked the question, who authorized this to be sent out to the community? And John immediately said, I did. I commissioned it, I authorized it, and I said it could be distributed. So when you said that you could pick up the phone and call John and he'll answer your questions, I mean, if that's happening, that's great. I did. I have a little more trouble than you do getting those questions answered.
Which begs a different question. If management is not acting in a manner that the board of directors approves of, why is there no ramifications or any actionable, I mean, I'm sorry, but he works for us, and I'm actually general manager at CSD, and I've been to these meetings, and the way he speaks to people, the way he rolls his eyes when there's public comment, is deplorable. I would never consider doing that. I mean, to the people that pay my salary, ultimately, it's completely disrespectful. And I think it's just snowballing to where the top, or the people in management, are corrupting the entire HOA to where we're losing control of it.
Can I ask, how is it though that we already have a security contract in place and there's vehicles that are painted and they're out there and the board hasn't done this analysis in advance? Before you even make a decision, that should have been vetted and gone through and approved by the board before you even approve the contract. So to say that management sent out the numbers without your approval, that's a disconnect. There's something wrong there, then you're not running the board properly.
But that's not what I said. I said management sent out the analysis. If you look at the beginning of the analysis, you'll see that the net savings to the membership on that analysis is $228,000, I think, which is consistent with the number the board had worked with since the summer. Management took that $228,000, or $228, I apologize, I don't know the exact dollar, I think it's $228.
$228.17.
And through what I'm going to say for myself was a very liberal, subjective analysis, lowered that number to $88,000. And I can tell you the board of directors never saw nor agreed to anything in the neighborhood of $88,000. So
that's not getting like services. I mean, was there an RFP sent out? If so, how many people?
Nope, there was no RFP sent out.
So we just asked this one company to bid.
This is the conversation we had before.
Contract.
Yes, that's right. This is what we did before as an interim with a 30-day out in the contract. And some of the things that have happened that are disconcerting is we had this conversation in front of staff. Some folks in the room think we should have had it for a long time, right? They said we should have done this over a month-long process and send out RFP, and you do this while your staff is in place. And my personal opinion is I think that's crazy to discuss the future of an employee's position in front of them while they're working for you. I think that's just my opinion.
I get that.
So,
but when you're talking about a contract of that size, and when the whole process of creating an RFP, you're setting the parameters of what the contract is going to consist of, so that you can specifically compare apples to apples. And something's happened, because wherever contact you made with this company that you're using now, we're not getting the like services that we had before. So,
what do you mean by that?
There's no patrolling.
That's just not accurate. That's not accurate.
Oh, yes.
I've never seen them.
So what we are getting, what we did, was we asked staff for what is our current staffing? What are the number of service hours? Which becomes an important part, I think, of the analysis. How many service hours do we have in-house? You're never going to have apples to apples when you go from in-house to contract, because when you do it in-house, you have expenses that a contractor doesn't have.
No, I'm talking about the services. I know that the dollar amount isn't changed, but the specific services, the line items and the services provided.
Right, but when you have so we had internally, we had a security manager that was paid $90,000 a year in salary. There is no security manager when you use the vendor. The company is the security manager.
But that's implicit in the contract that we've signed with Paladin. They've got managers and we're paying them.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, that's absorbed in that number.
That's exactly right. But what it doesn't mean is that you don't need a $90,000 a year security manager on staff, because you have that function that's being provided as part of the contract.
Okay, except that we're getting less patrol now than we had before.
I'm seeing them more.
And by the contract, as I understand it, we went from 360 some hours a week to 200 and some hours.
In transition.
Well, show us, how come it isn't transparent? Because it isn't.
Well, I'm not sure where you're looking, because it's in the contract, it's the security services patrol hours. So for the folks that don't know, you have gatehouse and you have patrol. The gatehouse hours are only paid for by the folks that live in the custom villages. So Master Basic funds your patrol function, okay? So the gatehouse hours right now are staffed hour for hour, meaning both gatehouses are staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. What we had, according to our schedule, because we don't have in our post orders, our general orders of how we run security, there's no schedule in there. So we took the schedule that we were using, and it was 320 patrol hours per week. The Paladin levels of service with an on-duty contract, it's not a contract manager, because again, it's not like for like, because it's a different structure, is 292 hours. So the net difference is 4 hours a day, 28 hours a week. So are you getting less service? Yes, you're getting 4 hours a day of less service. Does that translate into you never see the patrol? I'm not sure that I would agree with that.
I didn't say that. I said we're getting less than
we are. We're getting 4 hours a day less. And here's why. On Friday, Saturday, and Sundays, we would run triple shifts. Internally, triple shifts. There was never an analysis done to say, well, is that married up to calls for service? Is that married up to on-view incidents? It just was what we were always doing. If we look at and last night we had a traffic and safety committee meeting, and the vendor brought in these charts that show these are the service hours you have under your old system, these are the service hours you have now. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you are correct. We have fewer cars on. Monday through Thursday, we have more. So in the total cumulative patrol hours, it comes out to 28 hours a week. There's no question that's less.
All right, the second component is that's 28 hours less. Is the service exactly the same before and after?
No.
Are we doing exactly the same thing with Paladin that we were doing with the old car? If you removed anything, that's less service.
I think that they've added things, though. The last meeting, he even talked about how they added, like pet control services, so they can check the chips on lost pets. A lot of people lose their pets, and so you don't have to look like that. The idea is that it is something extra.
Trash cans, I have to admit, I was doing trash cans. They're getting about 20. I was getting 40 to 50 in Lower Serrano alone. What?
What do you mean by trash cans?
I'm sorry, Mr.
Trash cans, we used to patrol trash cans that are left outside. I was getting 40 to 50 on the bottom of Serrano alone. They're getting 20 to 30 in all of Serrano.
Where are you getting those numbers?
She personally did. I did it.
No, where are you getting the numbers where Paladin is getting?
I talked to one of the security guards that told me.
He told you that he's getting 20 or 30?
Correct.
Okay, well, I mean, I don't know what that one security officer is telling you, but I don't know that I would take that and run with it as an example of less service.
I also don't think that security should be doing traffic patrol. They should be patrolling safety.
Are they putting fewer trash cans away for the homeowners? So they used to put away 50
We are
trash
not putting
cans?
away.
Oh, just writing them tickets? Well, I think that's better than...
Ladies and gentlemen, please, we want to be respectful of everybody. The The question of whether or not you want security doing trash cans and CC&R enforcement is one we are, as a community, are going to answer in the coming months. What we have done is we've taken the existing post orders, like I said, and those post orders specify what the duties, to your question, sir, what the duties are, and that's what they're doing. So, for example, between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m., they're looking for people that are parking on the street. On Wednesdays, they're doing trash can enforcement. When they see construction materials in the street, they're following the same protocols that our company, our in-house people did. The question I want to ask the rest of the community as we move forward is that what you want your security people doing? Because there's certainly some folks in the community that would say, I would prefer my security people to do security. We have 4 full-time compliance people that surround them. Maybe they're the ones that should be looking for trash. I'm not saying that's the right answer. I'm saying you have 4 full-time employees whose sole job is to do CC&R compliance. What's the right balance? And that's something you're all going to get the opportunity to answer. Ma'am.
Robert, can you explain the overlap that existed with our previous security between Serrano and the Parkway, which was another Parker community?
You mean the overlap?
Yeah, the overlap that existed between sharing the resources.
Right. So, for the folks that don't know or don't care, almost 20 years ago, give or take, the Parkway, which is a master plan community in Folsom, entered into an agreement with Serrano that they would lease and be co-employers for our staff. So in our staff's downtime, they would perform work for the Parkway, and then the Parkway would reimburse us a percentage of their work. I'll keep it to strictly what I can say are the facts, and I'll leave my opinion out for the moment. For 15 years, this agreement was never written down. There was no written agreement between the two organizations. So in the neighborhood, at the early part, $500,000, and at its peak, over $1 million a year was moving between the two organizations. In the security part of this, we sent our officers to the Parkway to provide security services to the Parkway. And the Parkway reimbursed us for those direct expenses, as well as 25% of the salary of your security manager. Getz has taken some hits for this, and he shouldn't. I'm the one that went to the board, and I said, I'm not sure you're doing this right. There's 2 types of licenses you can have. One is a proprietary security officer license, and one is a private patrol operator. Proprietary means you stay on your property. You only patrol your property. It also has training standards that are less than a barber. It's 8 hours of training with an 8-hour renewal. So the training requirements are almost non-existent. We had a proprietary security officer license, which prevented us by law from providing security services to anybody else. So we were essentially selling security services without a license. What's the big deal? We've done it, we didn't get caught, no problem. The problem is it's not only against the law civilly, there's a criminal penalty. For every day we sent an officer over there to work, and we did it 3 times a day, 7 days a week, for years. Okay? Remember, you own all this liability because these are your employees. So 100% of this liability belongs to you. I brought it to the board's attention. I said, I think you're doing this wrong. I think you're doing it really, really wrong. I wasn't on the board at the time. Just like you, I came to a meeting and I said, here's my understanding of the law. And all I was told is the next day at 1 p.m. we had terminated our security agreement with the Parkway. Okay, so whatever the board did, I'm not privy to because I wasn't on it. Now, I'm sorry, just 1 second. One more interesting thing happened, which leads us to the security analysis. Remember I said 25% of your security manager's salary was paid for by the Parkway. So last year, when that agreement ended, did your security manager take a 25% pay reduction? No. So the owners in Serrano paid the extra 25%, even though the security manager no longer had the responsibility of scheduling shifts in the Parkway. My understanding is they accomplished this by eliminating a position within the security department and absorbing that into the manager's position. Now, whether we think that's right or that's wrong, that was what I was told is how it happened. So what we saw, and as we looked at some of the historical analysis, as you see in 2014, again, I'll have to let Dean speak to this because as some of you have indicated on the internet, I'm not that bright. So it's hard for me to follow along with the bouncing ball sometimes. But what I have seen is, if we were leasing our employees to the Parkway, that meant that the time that they weren't actively working for us, they were working for them. Yet when we eliminated our Parkway agreement, we laid off a bunch of people. which means they weren't being leased, they were here for the Parkway. In fact, when the Parkway contract ended officially, 4 of our full-time employees left Serrano to go to work for the contract management company that now runs the Parkway. So, yes ma'am, I'm sorry.
So then, in effect, were we being reimbursed a lot less than we should have been for 4 full-time employees?
I'm going to have to leave that to the finance committee.
But it looks like that, doesn't it?
I can only tell you this.
Okay.
The staff positions, the executive positions were reimbursed on a percentage basis.
Okay.
So 25% of your security manager's salary, which means if we did less than 25%, if less than 25% of his time was spent for the Parkway, we got a bonus, didn't we? Because they paid us for time that, I'm not sure that's a good deal for them, but your general manager, for example, was 20%. So if he didn't spend 1 day a week working on the Parkway, they essentially subsidized his salary to us. Now, the hourly employees were paid as a straight pass-through. Does that make sense?
Kind of, but as a corollary to that, didn't we not also have the same arrangement for landscaping with the Parkway and other
all their services? We did all their services.
They had, excuse me, they had no employees, and if you assume that everything matched up dollar for dollar, everything we spent, we got reimbursed. There's one glaring issue that I think that Director Thompson and I have been trying to attack, and that is putting the Serrano owners first. And here's where you're not first. For the entire time that we provided, well, I shouldn't say that, let me be clear. For the, up until the last year of us providing services to the Parkway, we have no insurance for those professional services whatsoever. Meaning, and I'm confirming for you right now, that talking to the insurance broker, that we never disclosed that we were providing third-party any professional services whatsoever to the Parkway, and therefore the insurer didn't collect premiums and didn't insure us for that, and we cannot buy a tail, which would cover us going in arrears, or anything that's ever happened in those prior years. God forbid anything does, but there isn't a reason in the world that directors like us who become aware of that wouldn't try to eliminate that responsibility, liability, or other potential for any amount of money. If we were making any money or we were losing money, it just didn't make any sense.
Right. I'm dying to ask the question, that's why I'm here. Is it true that security went into someone's backyard over a noise complaint? Trespass, and that they were naked in the spa, and that they carried body cameras on them so that you view whatever's on the security camera? Is that true?
Me personally?
No. You have access to it. Because I wouldn't want you to see me naked. No. And I wouldn't want anyone to see me naked. No.
So if this came up last night to this incident, and all I can say to you is management has not reported the specifics of this to any of us. So if, I have no, I can't, I mean, people could say yes.
I thought it was brought up at the traffic committee.
It was brought up at management. What I'm saying is, let me give you an example. There was of the technology. You're right, they do carry body cameras, but let me tell you an example without giving any specifics. On Halloween night, a resident called to report a very loud party. And
wait, let's not go on that tangent. I want to know, is it illegal to go in someone's backyard? Is that trespassing?
I can't answer what you're asking.
I
can answer that.
Yeah.
I've been with the Highway Patrol for 30 years. I'm retired. And absolutely, they cannot go in the backyard.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
But did they?
Yes.
I don't know. That's why I was here.
Who has the
Yeah, we were there. What I'm telling you is I would have expected management would provide us with all this information. I haven't seen a thing from them.
Yeah. Management is responsible. They're clearly opening up the board and us the homeowners to significant liability. Because if they do, whomever gets their rights infringed upon decides to go after and sue the HOA, that isn't costing us money. Yeah, there's insurance, but the rates get ratcheted up and we end up paying for it. So the board's job is to be fiscally, financially and legally up and up. And so we either need a new general manager, we need a new legal counsel, because clearly whomever we've been using has not been aware of basic legalities that we're not doing it correctly.
For 20 years, there have been no issues, and all of a sudden we have issues. And we have issues because we have major changes going on, and we're pitting one neighbor against another neighbor over these issues. This is nuts. I've been here for so long.
I think the real issue is that you're picking up the carpet and finding issues.
Right. And